And so next up, we have, if I can get the correct screen without the mouse freaking out. There it is. Daniel Harris of the Kendra Initiative, and he's going to be showing us the back end of the system that he developed, which licensing and royalty splits, getting very granular into it was in a blockchain-like system. So I hope you're hearing us okay, Daniel.
I'm hearing you. Can you see me?
And everyone, email only, no video downloadings, another how do you? We are having a lot of trouble with the video presentation, so keep it to text if you can. So I think we're ready to go. Whenever you are, Daniel.
Okay, Peter, can you see me?
Yeah.
Great.
You're on screen.
I'm on screen. Okay, great. I shall dive into sharing my screen. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
What I'm going to show you is a prototype that we've been developing. Can you see that?
Yep.
You can see the screen. Everyone, you're now sharing your screen. Yes, that works. Okay, so what you see there is something called Kendra Hub, and Kendra Hub is an application for managing digital rights around songs and in the future media in general. So just stop me at any point if you want to just chuck in with questions or something doesn't make sense. That's fine by me. So let's just dive into this. We're going to go into what a song looks like in Kendra Hub. It's all to do with rights. We got the composition right. We've got the design right. We can make up any right. We've got the performance right. We've got the recording right. So let's just have a look at the performance right. You can see all of the people that played on that track and when they played, because this could be just an output from Pro Tools, and that's where everyone played. That's all the stems and that's all the samples. It isn't, in fact. It's actually a we had to manually input it because you can't actually export from Pro Tools currently like this. But we will get there. Because Pro Tools is getting there. It's now becoming metadata aware. Yeah, you hearing me? You getting what I'm saying?
Yep.
Great.
All good.
Awesome. So this is another way of showing it more in text. We've got actually a suggested split based on the amount of time that people are playing in the track. Now, that isn't how it's done currently in the music industry, but it is interesting when you start talking about taking samples from tracks, and I'll show that in a second. And let's just look at how we model the song as a split, as 100%, and then you can see this, all the artists and anyone involved in the track gets a cut when that track is sold. Now, okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now, what happens if we take a sample of this track? Let's go back to clips. Let's take Stairway to Heaven. And so this is Stairway to Heaven. Let's embed a sample within Stairway to Heaven. Let's embed a sample of Tiny Human. So we're going to sample Tiny Human. And what we're going to do here is just take a little section that's where my mouse is, around there. Now, I'm just going to move these sliders to get the right range, and you'll see, hopefully, the number of the stems has decreased, and the suggested split is now all a fifth, because actually we're just taking this small amount here. Now, so that's recalculated who gets paid for what, dependent on if they're actually in the sample. Now, this may or may not be the agreement in the band, and pretty recently, the PPL, the UK CMO, PRO, actually said that if you can hear the sample, if you can hear a performer within a sample, then you get paid for it. Now, so there is a case actually where this was actually used. Okay, so we can take samples of tracks and we can put them into other tracks. Let's have a song full of samples. So now we've got a song full of samples. The computer's just going to catch up. It's an 8-year-old Mac Pro, MacBook Pro. It's doing well. You're doing really well. Okay, so we have a song full of samples. There are no performers here. They are just sampled from other tracks. But the algorithm can drill down into those samples and dig out all of the performers and calculate all of the splits based on how much they're playing within the track, within the samples. And you can have samples within samples within samples ad infinitum, and it's all a value equation. So value equations are very interesting. They've been pioneered in the kind of realm of 3D printing and stuff like that in the kind of collaborative consumption community. And this is kind of doing it in the media industry. So it's kind of, it's very interesting, the parallels. So we're working with a lot of the open value network people to see if we can actually come up with a common standard that works both for online media stuff and also 3D, because everything is just basically a value equation. So how can we make that work? So that's mostly about the algorithms. I'll show you a little bit more of Kendra Hub, because it's meant to be useful for both artists, composers, record labels even, managers, and even CMOs and PROs, because the whole idea is we will live in a flat world where anyone can represent a smart contract, if you like, about a song. And every person in or legal entity that is interested in a smart contract about a track can actually have data about that track. So essentially, this is me. I'm interested in having data about all of these tracks and storing, caching the data, the smart contract, the relationships. But there might be many actors within each one of those songs, and each of those have essentially what we're calling a Kendra Hub. Kendra Hub is the name of this application. It's an open source application. It's a reference application. So we would like to see this protocol, the messaging system actually built into everything, bit from devices, applications, digital audio workstations. Essentially, they all become rights aware. And if you've seen any of the videos that that I've produced before, then you might understand that a bit.
Should we go to questions? Or?
Yeah, let's do that. Kind of that makes sense. So let's go to questions.
So I may have to repeat things in case the mic doesn't pick it up. But
I'll tell them to come up and let me see them. I want to see the whites of their eyes. Hi. I can't see your face.
That's on purpose. Anyone have any questions for Daniel right off?
So let's say I'm just a normal person. I just want to do a remix. How can Kendra Hub be used for someone that is interested in making the right thing, acquiring a license before making the music, or as he's making the music? Because I'm absolutely convinced that right now people make mixes like that just because they don't know how to get the rights, and it's what we see. And sometimes it's just more, people want to do the right thing.
Sorry, I'd really appreciate it if you came and just said this directly into the screen. Then I'd see what your facial expressions are doing. I'd be able to actually understand what you're saying as well, because I can't hear the audio very clearly. Please do come to the screen.
Is that possible?
Come on.
Come on. Take this down. You're going to be shocked when you see what he looks like. It's horribly disfigured.
They looked like it 10 years ago, I think.
Hi, what's your name?
Grégoire.
Edouard.
As well.
No. Go for it.
So my question was, how can you use a Kendra Hub when, for let's say, wants to make a remix? So just, concretely, because I think that most people using SoundCloud right now making remixes, many of them would like to acquire a license before doing anything and before publishing a track on their account. They just don't know how to do it. And I could see what you built being part of the solution.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, what this is about, at the end of creating your song, you basically have a full menu of all the samples that you've got in your track. And because you have that, then you can basically click one button that says go clear the samples for all these tracks. And because everyone else is using Kendra Hub or something like Kendra Hub that has a protocol built into it, you can then understand, they can then reply to those really quickly. At the moment, you have to phone, or you have to go meet someone, or you have to send a letter, or you talk to their lawyers, or it just doesn't happen to clear samples. So what we're trying to do is automate the clearing of those samples. And you could have business rules around, anyone who's just recording in their studio, fine, use this track, pay me £5 or $5. Or if you want to use it in a movie, you have to give me a call. Or if you want to use it in a vegan advert, fine. But if it's a smoking advert, no, you can't. So you could have lots of business rules around these things that make clearing the samples a lot easier and automated. And furthermore, there are other organizations out there that are selling rights, like one-click license, and there's other organizations that sell rights on behalf of the artists, and we can. What we want to do is plug into their APIs so that Kendra Hub becomes a dashboard for all of those other systems, so that an artist or a manager can manage it from one place. Because part of all the problem here is you have to log into all these different websites to manage your digital profile, and it's a nightmare. Yeah, next.
How is someone able to write this information to a track? Like what gives them the permission to do that, and who controls those credentials?
Okay, in the Kendra world, everyone is autonomous, and has the rights to say anything they want. There is no sense of an authority that is lord of the manor, as it was. So how do we know what's true then? Well, we know what's true by the trust metric that is built up from those assertions. So if I say I played bass on Let It Be, then if Paul McCartney agrees with me and a host of other a host agrees with that assertion, and then a load of other people agree with that assertion, then we can take that more as truth. So truth becomes crowd-based. And yeah, obviously there's gaming that you have to be aware of or you know the issues of gaming that. But so one of the things that we've found is that so we all know there are many CMOs, PROs in each country, the PPL and the PRS in the UK, and Gamer in Germany, and even their records don't always tally. So everyone has a different worldview. So we've got to model that within the system. We've got to model that everyone is going to have maybe slightly different views on who is the bassist on Let It Be, and we've got to have built into the system a dispute resolution system. So that's again what we're looking at, is how do we do a diff on the data? Say, no, you're not saying what I think is true. So can we have a dispute on this? Okay, let's have a dispute. Let's see if we can get some corroborating data. And then again, we go off and we find people that agree with those assertions. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
We're back. Hi there. We had an internet crash, I guess. So
that's a shame.
We lost the connection for a bit.
Can we pick up? Did you hear me what I was saying about trust?
We lost you for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we heard the beginning where you said that anyone can write anything, and then when you started talking about how that gets resolved, we missed all of that afterwards.
Okay, I'll just quickly go over that then. Basically, anyone has the right to say anything, make any assertion about who owns what, who played in what, and there's a web of trust. That's I trust you that what you say is correct, and that's as what humans do. It sometimes gets lost when we think the BBC is correct all the time, but actually it's a bunch of humans. So we like to model based on humans, and so we also want to model dispute resolution kind of methodologies, so that I was saying, what I did say was that, you can go back and look at the video because it's all recorded, that CMOs and PROs also have data that is not the same for the same tracks with the same ISRC or code. So, and that's part of what the GRD was meant to solve, the global repertoire database. But that's another matter. But what we want to build is if you do a diff against one piece of data and another piece of data for the same essentially track, then you can see there might be disparities, and it would be good to have a way of saying, click a button and say, hey, let's try and resolve these disparities. Yeah?
Johnny, what was the point you were... Sorry, hello, it's Phil here. You can
Hi,
see
Phil.
my face here.
Awesome.
Mentioned Paul McCartney. What was the... You said some example about Paul McCartney trusts me or something. That was the one phrase we heard, and you didn't repeat it this time. I was wondering if you could tell us what the relevance was of that, or what...
Yeah, no, I've never met Paul McCartney. I've never spoken to him. I was just saying, if I said that I was the bassist on Let It Be, and Paul McCartney agreed with that assertion, then that becomes a stronger assertion. So basically, in the world at the moment, we have a bunch of assertions. The PPL says a lot of things about tracks. Gamer says a lot of things about songs and tracks. There's a lot of people saying these things based on who played what, who was the bassist, or whatever. Now, we trust these legal entities. The world that we want to see is where anyone can basically make an assertion. It's basically, you know, based on kind of semantic web kind of theory in a way. And the way, I think the question before was about how do we know what's true, or how can we trust, you know, if anyone, you know, how do we know what to trust? Well, that becomes basically we have to take a punt based on who's said it and how much we trust them, because that's what we do at the moment. People trust the BBC for the news, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, does that make sense? $10.4 for a copy. Hi. Was that clear?
Yeah, we've got a question from the other side. Do you want to come over?
Yeah.
Those look really nice shelves there, like really old style.
Original.
Yeah.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, Leo.
My question is that it isn't just that we trust these companies because they represent some corporate entity. Isn't there also an assumed level of education? So when you talk to a producer, the producer may say he has 3 points, but he doesn't realize you're asking about publishing splits rather than artist royalties. So there is also a vetting process. When you get something from PRS, you know that they know exactly what they're claiming when they've claimed it. Whether you trust that it's accurate or not is a different story, but the fact that they've claimed it means they've gone through the process of communicating with an artist, explaining to them what a publishing ownership stake is, the difference between sync and underlying composition. So if we go right to the artist, then who handles the education part where we can trust that claim is what they think they're claiming?
Sure, good question. It's not clear cut. There's different scenarios, and it may be that we can set up algorithms that look like, well, what's the general consensus on this piece of on this piece of data that I'm a bassist on? Let it be. I mean, what PRS is saying something, PPL is saying something, or however it works. Probably PPL. And Paul McCartney's saying something else. So what is that does come into it. But let's be clear about that. There are some records in the PPL that don't include, for a song, that don't include all the session musicians, for instance, that played on the track, because specifically, that I only know this case, and I'm not sure about other CMOs, PROs, but in this case, the record label puts the assertion about who plays on the track into the PPL, and then it's up to any other artist or session musician, featured artist or non-featured artist, as they call them, to make a claim against that track. Now, that's just the way it is, and so there is already that notion of claiming, making a dispute resolution case. Now, that's already in place. So what we want to do, and I've spoken to Mark Douglas, the CTO of PPL, about creating a protocol for a generalized dispute resolution system that would work not only for the PPL but also generally around all CMOs and between artists, even between band members. You know, negotiating splits. So you could take it from a very micro level to a macro level. So yeah, you're right. There's different levels of education, and those things need to be taken into account. But it's not clear cut. It's not like we trust everything the PPL says, and little Johnny, who's making a claim, we don't trust him. It's not clear cut like that, because people make mistakes, and those things need to be cleared up. So we want the way that you clear those things up to be as slick and easy and automated as possible. And that's why we keep on banging our heads about open protocols and standard methodologies for doing things. And if we all did things, if we all acted in ways that were standardized, then just like the internet, just like MIDI, then the marketplace flourishes. I mean, that's what we've seen with the internet. I don't need to tell you guys that. You know about the internet. Next.
I have a question about this open standards. Hello.
Hi.
I'm Kato, one of the organizers of this.
Hi.
So, on the topic of open standards, are you in touch with the Open Music Initiative people in the US, Hannes Pammy and that crowd? What's your perspective on that sort of initiative?
Okay. No, you got me. No, we haven't spoken to the Open Music Initiative. I'd love to. Please, if you are speaking to them, then make an introduction. My email address is daniel@kendra.io, and I'd love to speak to anyone about this. There's a lot of initiatives out there. The whole world of this area has just flourished in the last few years. I started Kendra Initiative back at the end of the 90s, and there wasn't much around this then, and it's great to see so many people flourishing, and we all just need to keep interconnecting and sharing ideas and news.
And
so yeah.
And on that note, you can find Daniel on the Slack channel and in the Google Drive, sharing documents and ideas and information and links and all that. So, oh, wait, one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Pop over. And one final question coming from Helen.
Hello.
Hello there.
So you've been going since the late 90s, you said.
Yes.
And so what do you identify are the difficulties, and how can we help you help anyone? Because obviously, if you've been going that long, then to my understanding, that's like, wow, you were really innovative to be doing what you've been doing way back then, because most people are just getting on board now and thinking they're state of the art, and then I think, oh my God, you've been doing that since then. I had no idea. So this is amazing to me. You obviously have problems getting to where you are, because why the hell isn't your thing fucking the standard? If you've been going that long, what's the problem? What is the problem?
Sure, I'll answer that. When we started, it was just at the tail end of the .com boom, and there was quite a lot of interest then. Actually, more from the video and streaming and high definition market, because that was all coming. That was all buzzy. And then when the bust happened, there was no money, and people really just couldn't be thinking about blue sky stuff like this. So that's one of the issues. And another issue is just vested interest. Is that we've got a lot of people vested in the systems that they've already created and the systems that they know, and if we'd actually have asked anyone, do they want the internet, TCP/IP, back in the day that it was created, there's a lot of people that would have reacted against it, because there were a lot of systems out there that did similar things, but in very bespoke ways between certain points. And the same with the World Wide Web. These things didn't happen by consensus. They just happened because a group of people got together and built them, and then they flourished because there was nothing else really that could take off like that. I think I've just contradicted myself. And I think the problem with a system like this, about trying to create a standard in an already vibrant marketplace is very difficult. But we have some very good examples like MIDI, which musicians understand, and they realize that it makes sense. And MIDI got created when a bunch of synthesizer experts got together and said, we've got to make this work better. And so it can be done. That's why we just released this idea.
Would your system be better if you were able to get all the digital audio workstations to actually output your technology? Because that would standardize things kind of instantly.
Sure. We've been speaking to On Studio, who create On Force, who create On Studio, which is a collaborative digital audio workstation, and if they started implementing a specific way of outputting in, say, XML or something like that, then it would be great. The problem with all of this is if you're not loaded with cash, and if you don't have a name, like you're not really famous, then doing these kind of things is just difficult, because the press don't necessarily want to really speak to you, because there's always a risk that you're just crazy. And the problem is that to think like this, you have to be crazy. and that's a good thing. I think being crazy is a good thing, because that you have to think out of the box. Otherwise, we just stay the same forever. And that's why I'm really glad that you guys are there, and I'm sorry I can't be with you. But I think there's so many things that we can do to really make this happen. I think one thing that I keep coming back to in this world is that there's what's actually happening now, and there's the state of the art, and there is the technology that we have at our fingertips right now, and then there is the blue sky idea. And then and that contains the model, the trust model, the model of how do we actually want this to work. And I think it's important to keep those two ends of the design methodology separate, so that we know what we have now, and we can build tools, and we can build implementations with that, as we've done with Kendra Hub, and as many of you guys have done with the tools that you're creating. But it's also really important to know, where do we really want to go, and what do we really want it to look like. And we shouldn't necessarily limit what this end system looks like by the stuff that we have right now. And that means either the blockchain or Ethereum or Drupal or whatever. These are tools that we have today, but they won't be the tools that we have tomorrow. And we have to think a bit clearly about how do we. And the third aspect is getting everyone to win. I know that there's different thoughts about let's build something new, and let's get everything out of, all the past, get out of the way. The fact is, there's a lot of people with vested interests, and this is kind of a political note, in the way that systems work right now. And I think it's really important that we build the systems that we are building, all of us are building, to work with those people, to work with the way that the PPL and the PRS currently work, because they have loads of cash and they have loads of resources, and they also have loads of influence. So integrating with their systems, getting them to open up APIs, and that's kind of what we've been, is really important. That's kind of what we've been trying to do with Kendra Hub, is going and speaking to the PPL and say, can we integrate into your API? Can we get a bi-directional link so that we can get artists to automatically input their assertions into your system, and also get out their data, their metadata about rights at the same time? So it's all about making these. First of all, get everyone to have an open API. That's the first stage. Get Pro Tools and Logic Pro and Avid to have open APIs, and then we can start bridging. We can create translators, so we can model what an open protocol might look like. And then once we've modeled that, then basically we just build plugins for an open protocol into these systems, and then everyone's talking the same thing, be it MIDI rights or some other open protocol.
That's brilliant. And something you just said a moment ago about identifying those stakeholders and trying to bring people in is one of the big tasks that we've set for ourselves today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Can
I say one last thing?
Yep.
One last thing is, what do we do as people? It's events like these that are really crucial for us to get together. And I should have been with you guys. But it's also about how do we continue to work beyond these events, and how do we continue to collaborate beyond these events. And it's going to be really interesting. This is a perennial problem, and if you come into contact with something I've written called Not Another NGO, just have a think about how we can all as individuals just connect together and keep on sharing, and not need to set up more NGOs in order to do this, in order to act as one, or act in a common way. Anyway, there you go. Thank you very much.
Daniel, it's Stubber. Thanks for the second hi. I'm so glad you could join us, even though you couldn't be here in person. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Well, that was it. Goodbye.